Hello everybody, it's CJ Wiley back with some adventures on the road stories. A lot of you have asked me about my adventures as far as with Vernon Elliot. Vernon Elliot was called the Faceless Man, and he was arguably the best unknown player in the United States. He would not play in a pool tournament, and he took off big scores, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in Detroit and around the country, and people just didn't know who he was. He was the Faceless Man, and really didn't even have any outstanding characteristics. Anyway, I was up in Indianapolis, Indiana with a friend of mine named Chuck, and we were at Tommy Staten's bar, and I was 19 years old and playing really well, and played all the locals and won probably a couple $1,000s through the course of 6 or 7 hours. And then in walks this older guy with bib overalls and a hat on, like a John Deere hat, and he's sipping on a cup of coffee, sits over there quietly, and the owner came up and he said, hey, that old guy over there will play you some 9-ball for $200 a game. And I looked at Chuck and I said, man, there's something funny about that. Why would that old man, why would they want him to play me? You know, they already see how well I play. Chuck looks at me and says, well, are you scared of an old man? He says, shit, look at him. You can beat him. So I said, okay. I said, but it just seems like something's a little out of line here. So I got up there and I started playing him, and I could tell right away that he could play well. His stroke was just different. He accelerated so well at the ball and hit it so purely, and it looked like the cue ball just floated around. That was really one of the first times I saw the touch of inside in practice, where they're hitting that dead ball. People would say they'd have it on a string, and Vernon Elliot definitely had it on a string. So anyway, we played two-shot shootout back then, where you had to roll out every time. There wasn't any one foul, kicking and all that. It was more of a strategic game. Much better game than one foul. And all the gamblers back then played it. Their favorite saying was, I'm not kicking in my money, because two foul or push out, they called it different names, was much more strategic, because you could control the game, and you could push out every time and set up these offensive, defensive situations where you had to shoot a lot of two-way shots. You had to bank real well. You had to make a lot of the shot making was really important. But anyway, so I played this Vernon Elliot for 12 hours. And I mean, this guy definitely knew a lot more about pool than me. He kept pushing out to these shots that I just didn't really know. And he'd bank it in and run out, or he'd bank and play safe. And he just took all these free shots. Anyway, we played 12 hours, and I still played really, really well. And we ended up breaking even. But after the match was over, I had this splitting headache, and Chuck and I went out to breakfast afterwards, and I told Chuck, I said, man, I got a headache from playing that old man. He just knew so much about the game, and I really did learn a lot watching him, and having to match him, shot for shot, playing that two foul. So I was supposed to play him the next game, or the next day. And I told Chuck, I said, man, tell him whatever you need to tell him. Tell him my dad died or something, and I had to leave town, because I am not going to play that old man anymore. There's just something fishy about him, and I don't know who he is, but he's somebody. Well, later we found out that it was Vernon Elliot, and the next day another friend of mine named Doug, who was a great player, better than me at the time, he matched up with him and ended up losing like $11,000. And talk about dodging a bullet. I was one of the few pool players that escaped the Faceless Man. And I had some other encounters with him later, and we became friends. Great guy. He was famous for saying, I'd rather cop a store than play in a pool tournament. If you don't know what that means, it's probably better, and I'm not going to explain it. Anyway, if you like my stories and you want to know more about what I learned from all these top-notch road players, join me at my private membership, www.masteringpocketbilliards.com. Become a member. It's less than $10 a month, and I'm going to share all of my secrets. And I'm uploading 7 new videos today, and I'll put new ones up regularly. Also have questions and answers where I'll help you as much as I can to get to the top level that you're capable of as quickly as possible. I'll see you next time.